presentation to order. And I'll have the roll call.
Thank you. Commissioner Gatz.
Here.
Commissioner Parker.
Here.
Commissioner Cassiari.
Here.
Commissioner Wolf.
Here.
And Commissioner Panozzo could not join us today.
Okay, now we need the approval of the agenda. Any additions? Okay, next will be the public comment. 3 minutes per person, agenda items
Hold
only.
your comment.
Being no public here, we will move on to approval of the minutes of the January meeting.
So we need a first and second for that. Move to approve.
I second.
We have a motion to approve the minutes, seconded by Mr. Wolf, and we will, all in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
And those opposed, no. Motion approved. Okay, presentations.
Oh, that's me.
All right.
Okay. Feel a little silly going over here, but
I think that's good.
operate it from over there. So, okay, I just wanted to give you all an update on where we are in terms of market projects and construction. And you've heard about all of these, but you know we've been working on them and just have a little more details for you today. So, he said all I had to do was hit the arrow, and it would work.
How about a space bar?
Maybe it's the space bar. Ah, thank you. All right, so the first thing, Fifth and Detroit. As you know, we did have a presentation earlier this year about that. A few more details. Fifth Street is going to be closed, possibly completely closed, June through September. Yikes. So no access to the community high parking lot, one of the biggest impacts that will have on us. So we are gonna be using the parking structure at Ann and Ashley and trying to direct everyone there for that time. Access to the parking lot near Carytown will remain open and accessible at all times. So the entrance to that parking lot is off of 5th Street, but we'll still be able to get into it. And I've been assured there will not be a day that that is blocked, which is good because vendors park there and unload from there.
What is the market use of the community high lot, or just for customers?
For customers.
Yeah, the market doesn't use it. Right.
Right, no.
And when community high is open, it's not available on Wednesdays,
Correct.
Oh.
which would cover most of June and September. But we would lose out on July and August. But I'm not sure how many customers even can park over there in July and August, because I'm wondering if it gets used up for other people.
I'm not sure.
Saturdays, it's definitely.
Yeah,
pretty-
Saturdays, you will miss it on Saturdays.
And you know, on Wednesdays, we've been trying to allow parking in the market lots as well, and that seemed to be possible for most of the year last year. So hopefully Wednesdays won't be as big of an issue, but Saturdays will be. The exit from Detroit onto 5th Street will always remain open. So even though 5th will be closed, vendors will still be pulling into Detroit to load and unload, and they will be able to get out. That's basically my main concern.
Important.
Sidewalk and foot traffic always will be possible, but it might not be pretty. There might be, you know, pedestrian, they will kind of control it. It might not always be pavement, it could be gravel, depending on the phase of construction. The bricks that are along Detroit Street, so where the parking meters and the trees are, those will be torn up at some point. We are supposed to have a walkthrough next week, and I'll get more details. My main concern is, will vendors still be able to pull up there to unload when they are doing this? And I'll show you kind of on a map all of these things and how it works out in a sec. And then the bump out will be redone with the shade and seating and tables. So periods of construction during Fifth, the bump out, and Detroit should all be happening at separate times. But like I said, hopefully next week I'll have more of a timeline. That's kind of one of the big pieces I'm missing, but they should have soon. So here you can see on the map, here, these bricks along Detroit. One of the big things we have to find out is, will vendors still be able to back up here to unload when they are doing this piece? If not, they will have to either unload from over here, and then we'll have to work on timing, or, you know, Fifth Street will be open at that point, so possibly if we can work with one of the businesses over here to have people pull in to this lot in the mornings to unload. It's not as close, but it's another possibility. Yeah.
I noticed that Spars and DeValders, when they leave, they always just take their things, of course, it's a smaller amount when you go home, but they take it on the carts right through the office area to their trucks.
Yes.
And I don't know if a few people would be able to do that in reverse.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion.
That's just a thought.
Yeah, we might. The market will be getting some large carts and small shopping carts for foldable shopping carts for vendors this spring. So we will be able to let vendors borrow those to help with this process, since it will be more difficult this year.
Even, some people might be able to unload at the end of the short aisle, because that is accessible there for carts. And then go up that short aisle to where they need to go,
Yeah, that's
Depending
that's
how
a
much
good
you have
suggestion. That's
and
a good
how you have it
suggestion.
packed.
These are good suggestions. Actually, one thing I would like to do after I find out a little bit more next week is put together a PowerPoint with suggestions to vendors that kind of outlines a plan for when this is happening, and just email that out to everyone, just to get everyone as soon as possible knowing what to expect.
I'm wondering if we want to have a meeting for the vendors that generally set up there. I mean, you could let anybody come, but especially for those people.
Yeah, I think
Maybe
that,
a meeting right at the market, because then you can look at things.
do you think that like on a market day, that would be
Maybe even after market,
like right after market?
like it's going to be starting June,
April.
starting April.
Yeah, as soon as things warm up.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Well, it's just an idea.
It's a good idea.
If you didn't, it would probably be easier on a market day because it's not all parked full of other things. Maybe right after market.
Yeah, and well, people won't have to make separate trips either.
Right.
Mhm. And at least give them the option to come.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. So
I think that would be good for public relations with the vendors.
Okay, that's a good suggestion. This lot over here is the one I was talking about. That entrance will be open for the whole project. They'll be able to get in there. Yeah. That's just a picture of the plan for the bump out area. Some trees, benches. Another thing that is going to be an issue is storage behind the stalls will not always be there for the project. And this is going to affect both the stalls, like Vina, Brock, Stallman, and Bremer at one point.
Just on the bump out area, or on the,
Yeah, so there'd be two phases.
okay.
One time, during one period, these stalls will not have storage,
Okay.
And another period, these might not have storage.
I think it depends on when it is.
Oh, and we don't really have any control over that.
Okay.
One of the solutions I was thinking about for that was after everyone is signed in, including dailies, and have picked a stall, offering a free stall just for storage. It might not be close to where they are, but I mean, just kind of depends on what stalls end up being open, but you know, it would be more space that they could pick in order of seniority. You know, using the carts and dollies, again, just for moving product around between like an empty stall and getting it to their customers. And then finally, we're thinking about having designated pickup and loading zone hours so that if you do have any like big orders, customers picking up large orders, if we told them like a certain time they could come, you wouldn't have to keep that at your stall. You could keep it in the loading zone area, kind of relieving some of that, hopefully. So the thought was to have it there. On Wednesdays, we could have it here at the end of the middle aisle in the morning, and then on Saturdays, we could have it in the loading zone on 4th.
I'm wondering, Stephanie, or maybe Carlene, you could answer this, if you think we're going to see, because to my understanding, annual vendors can choose to move their stalls before 6 a.m. Is
Yeah.
that right? Like, do you think we're going to see annuals during this period of construction just like choose to move?
That's something I never thought of,
I don't-
because I would say that considering the people who have those stalls, I don't think it'll happen very much,
The moving
because
people
they
around?
always set up in their own stalls. Pretty much all of them do. And Mr. Bremer has, those stalls are his now on the main aisle, right?
Two of those
Two
are.
of those, where he sets up.
Yeah.
So my feeling is that they won't, although it's their option, and they all do have high seniority.
That's a good question.
Mhm.
The ones, I did kind of try to ask some of them if they thought they might, and I think they all kind of said no, but with a but.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
we'll see
Well,
They
how
don't really know
bad
what
it
it's
is.
going to look like.
Like the
Exactly.
Vinas and Brock's, if this happens during July or August, they probably won't even be coming to market then.
That's true.
And Mr. Bremer doesn't usually have very much back stock, so it wouldn't matter to him if he's coming. It would affect the Nemus and with the vegetables.
Yeah.
And if it's during peach season, it would be bad for the Kapniks.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know about the DeValders. On Wednesday, they don't usually have much back there. I think it's a lot of times an empty cart.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably just gonna depend on when it is.
Yeah.
If the maple syrup people come, they don't use the back area.
Well, yeah, I think it's just really hard to know without having the timeline, and we don't
Right.
have that yet,
Yeah, it'll
So-
depend when it is, if it bothers different people.
right?
But it may not be as serious as it seems for all the vendors, but it will be for some.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah. And just parking, I kind of went through all of these already, but directing people to Ann and Ashley mostly with sandwich board signs. There'll be a banner above 5th Street before it is closed to warn customers that it's coming. There'll be posters around Carytown neighborhood. They will all be up on our website, the information, and signage and kind of chalk marks going from Carytown to the parking structure, to kind of like a path.
I think the challenge is going to be to encourage the customers to keep coming. so they don't go find someplace else that's easier to do for this year.
You think if they come once, they'll be so irritated that they won't come again?
I don't know.
Hmm.
It could happen for some, then there'll be others that aren't, it's not gonna phase them,
Yeah.
but I think that will be,
And I think the other side of it too is it does, hopefully it will, those people it does get some people awareness that that site exists and that maybe more people will start using it, and maybe afterward we might actually have a reduction in pressure on parking because more people know of alternatives. But you're right, in terms of, I think there might be some people that are just, I'm not gonna do that.
and the other thing that, I don't know how you're gonna do it, but those 2 parking lots that end up with a lot of vendor vehicles in, if there would be someplace else that we could get those vendors to park.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they would walk over here, but like around this building, on Saturdays, as far as I know, it's all empty.
Yeah.
And people think they can't park here, and maybe they can't, but Stephanie, you're able to do great things, like we can put a cover over the heaters for trucks to park there when it's below 15 degrees.
Right. Yeah, I can definitely ask, and actually I think even that question was broached before, and I think they seem open to discussing it at least.
But maybe there's someplace else that I'm not thinking of, but if we could if there would be some way for us to prohibit vendors and their helpers from parking in those 2 parking lots,
Right.
that could go a long ways to replacing the community high parking.
Yeah, that's a really good suggestion. Okay, I'll see if here is possible.
And it used to be years ago, and like when I do some of the craft shows, if they don't want anybody in the world parking here, they'll give you a little thing to put in your window of your vehicle that says you're authorized to be there.
Right.
And maybe we could have that for vendors if that's what if that's what we have to do.
Okay, yeah, and in the meantime, if any of you think of other possible spaces, especially
Well,
those
I think
familiar with
at one point,
downtown.
too, a few years ago, I made a big list of all the places that are around that are city controlled that are totally empty on Saturdays in particular.
Mhm.
And so that there's one on the other side of Main Street, there's a few around here.
Yeah.
Just look at Google Image and you can actually see them, and I've done my recon looking at the times when they're actually busy, and Saturdays they're a ghost town, but they're city owned. So-
Or maybe we could even have, some of those might be available for customers to park in too.
Yeah.
And if we could direct them to those areas.
Mhm.
And they wouldn't even have to pay $3, I don't think.
Yeah, that was another suggestion, was to see if we could waive the fee for the parking structure on a
Mhm.
market day.
Because
to
the
help
other
ease it.
thing that I remember discussing too with if they do have to pay for parking, that you could alternate kind of, there's a way to make it more of a gamify it in terms of essentially have their little stub you get from that and make that into like an entry for a lottery or something like that, such that it'd be possible there's a drawing for vegetables or, tokens from the market or something, but it's not a lot, it's like, $50.
Yeah.
But you enter in, every time you park there on Saturdays, you can enter in this thing, and then it would get participation. It would kind of counterbalance the negative of having to pay, and it would probably be a lot cheaper than having that all be free. I don't think, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, or I wonder about giving like if we're gonna waive parking, rather than waive parking for everyone, waive parking for market customers. So if there's some way to give market customers so that it's like special treatment for coming to the market.
Yeah.
So that other people that park there have to pay, but not
Right.
the market customers.
Mhm.
I like that too.
Mhm.
Okay, good. All things I will look into and to see what I can do.
Right.
All right, good. Thank you.
I think we need to, by brainstorming, I think we can
Yeah.
alleviate
Yeah.
the issues a little bit.
Good,
Mhm,
good.
mhm.
Yeah, those are all really good ideas.
I feel, just one last comment, I think some of it too is just letting customers and vendors know that it is a concern and it's something that you're trying to offset, and that there are,
Yep.
so maybe there is even like a notice to customers or something. We recognize this is a hassle. Thanks for being our customer. This is actually going to improve your experience in the long run, but right now, something that just sort of acknowledges the inconvenience and
Yeah.
gives them a.
I wonder what would be the best way to convey that, like at market when they come, a sign or something, or on their Facebook, or
It seems like
Probably
doing
both.
a
Probably both,
poster part
everything.
might be a good way to do it too.
A poster?
Yeah, because I think that there are a lot of people, I know particularly on the Detroit Street, I remember watching all the people who come in there, and there seem to be we did some other study before with actually license plates for figuring out how long people stay and what they were, and there were, it seems a lot of people that were very rarely, that was their place, and there were a lot of them were older, they were, because they want the proximity,
Yeah.
and they're really loyal, but they really need the proximity. And so making sure I don't think they're necessarily big Facebookers, I don't know, that's a guess. But so it seems like giving something to say that, give them a heads up, give them something that you appreciate that, to trying to make it more conducive for them, but also just to realize this is happening, and it seems like that would be they're a really valuable section of the
Yeah.
audience.
Yeah.
So,
I think that for that group of people, if we can get the message to them that they can park inside of the market on Wednesdays.
Yep.
Because a lot of them, I think, are available to come on Wednesdays.
Yep.
And you're right, they can't walk very far.
Yep.
And there's not very much handicap parking around.
No. And I think that's true. So there could be some bonuses with this too, of getting more coverage of Wednesdays. So
Mhm.
Wednesdays have been kind of going down, so this could be an opportunity to kind of revitalize some Wednesdays, and also to long-term get people aware of the actually parking structure. So then that long-term would relieve some of the parking issues. So
Yeah.
if we play it right, it could actually help long-term.
And I think another thing on the Wednesdays would be, right now, vendors and their helpers kind of park hither, thither, and yon in the market lot area, and maybe there'd be some way that we can get those more consolidated, so that leaving more of an open space for customers. Like maybe in that Sandlot parking lot, if that was pretty much available, and maybe we want to, over by the Carytown area, maybe we want to have a lot of vendors just fill that in as much as is possible. I don't know, you'd have to study it a little bit and think about it. But if you don't have to come in and park between trucks, you're probably more likely to come in and park.
Well, I think also when I've heard people mention that too, that it seems like there's this, people have assumed that you can't park in there, and it's kind of ambiguous, because on the weekend it's very clear that you can't, and so if you're a market person or a market regular, then a lot of people were surprised that you could ever park when there's markets going on, you could do that, so making that clear.
But the thing is, the parking in there is for market customers.
Yeah, it's kind of ambiguous in that way.
I know, and I haven't seen an issue with it to this point,
Yet. Yeah.
but
right.
we don't want to see it happening either.
No. Good, okay. I guess
Right.
moving on from Fifth and Detroit, we're replacing the overhead lights. We're getting LEDs, more energy efficient and cheaper. The current ones are all held up there with zip ties, so it's about time.
Ready to be removed.
Yeah. Time to replace. So that's a picture of one of the new ones next to the old one.
We'll just zip tie them together.
The parking lot is on schedule to be repaved in April. Will take 2-3 days, will not impact the market. The DDA is implementing it. We paid for it with the DDA grant that we got before. Before that happens, they will dig it all up and redo the drain downspouts, as well as the sewer lining will be replaced. That all drains out into the street. This is, part of the bigger picture in redoing Fifth and Detroit as well, revisiting drainage. A interesting thing, the Sandlot parking meters are going to be added to that area. And we will probably be removing the grass strip and the guardrail that surround it, so it will be more open and differentiated with pavement lines instead. So that could be nice actually for flow.
How is that going to affect where vendors set up in the summertime?
It won't really. It's more gives extra spots on non-market days or on days when we are not using that area for vendors.
I think it would be useful to still keep like a chain or something, like in the season that it's used by vendors, just so anyone driving up knows, like especially some vendors sometimes park in the sandlot, just so they know, this is the time that it's now used for vendors or something like that.
Do you mean like so customers don't park there?
And, well, I guess vendors are mostly the concern in the morning time because, sometimes people will pull in but then we have to set up and there's like cars in the way. So some way of letting people know.
What I've seen as far as that happening, it happens more with brand new vendors or vendors who are sending new market helpers. And I really think that can be handled just with proper signage in the office, and maybe even when people are signing in, when somebody new comes, be sure to remind them and kind of show them. And I know when there used to be like 20 years ago, a sign in the office that said, if you're a daily vendor, absolutely no parking in the market area until your stall is assigned. But it, maybe was a little harsh on the one hand, but on the other hand, there's a purpose for it. There's not room for those cars hanging around just because it looked empty.
It may mostly be in that transition season too, where we're all used to parking in the sandlot because no vendors, like in the early spring, and then at some point it happens that like vendors need to use it, and then other vendors don't know that people are setting up tents. So it's just that like transition season, maybe just communication would help. But also, Sarah had painted on there actual stall, like 10-foot wide. So like keeping something like, because it may be confusing, I don't know how wide a parking spot line is. Is it 8 feet? So that might be really confusing. So if there's at least, maybe it's a different color or something
That's a really good.
with the 10-foot.
I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, because
lines.
they're still out there. You can see where the
Yeah,
tents are
I mean,
supposed
they're
to go.
faded, but yeah, we
Right.
use them. Yeah, I
Right,
think
exactly.
they're really helpful for
Okay.
us.
Yeah, that would be a good idea, because that way the parking, we could park as many cars in there as possible when it's just used for a parking lot.
Yeah.
Right.
But make it work for the 10-foot
Yeah,
tents.
yeah, just making sure that it's clear where the tents are supposed to set up when their tents are in there. Right. Yeah, okay, good. Yeah, I think that was it for that. That was just a map in case we needed it, but I think everyone's pretty clear on what it's gonna look like, correct? Okay. And then I think finally 4th Street, which was supposed to get done in the fall, and then it was delayed because of weather. So they are lengthening the drop-off area in front of the Carytown building. The concrete pathway between the market and the Carytown over here, that's going to get redone. The driveway into the sandlot here is going to be turned into a curb. So on normal days, you'll have to actually enter it like this and pull straight in. We had talked about that, not sure how much of an issue that will be, but it has potential to be an issue. And if it is, I looked at, you can buy like temporary ramps, sort of, that we could put up on market days to allow us to easily drive up or pull carts through there. And I think that could work if it's challenging. But with these barriers being gone, it might not be as much of a challenge. I think we'll have to kind of see. Okay, that was it. Any other questions or suggestions?
Is the sandlot going to be repaved or no?
Oh.
The whole thing?
Wait,
Because that was recently
because it was
done.
recently repaved.
But
Is
it
that
wasn't
considered
supposed
part
to
of the
last a
parking
long
lot?
time.
I think it is, I will have to double check, but I think the whole thing is getting
Oh, okay.
paved.
Yeah, because
So
when
what
they-
will those edges look like on the north edge of
Here?
the sand, that is a grass strip with a
Yeah.
like metal
Yeah.
barrier. What's that
And
gonna
it
look
makes
like?
it difficult for the big trucks coming into the stalls on that aisle to get in there.
So this one right here?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is what I mean. This,
got a curb.
this is going away, this grass
Yeah.
strip,
Uh-huh.
and then this guardrail is going away. There will be meters probably, like right now there are posts here,
Right.
So those or something like that will remain, and those will also be over here. Yeah, although I think, no,
Because there will be, there's a drop off on the
Yeah.
west,
yeah,
like the grade drop.
Yep.
Like there's just gonna be like a lip there, like a
No,
little.
it's
they'll
just
make it
gonna,
all level.
they're gonna-
redo that.
Oh,
They're
it
gonna make it
so
smooth.
it will be, okay, on a grade.
yeah.
Okay.
And I could be, actually now, because I just met with them yesterday, and there was talk about, like, however it fit best, either they're gonna have parking here, so cars like they do now will pull in and face this way. We might actually have them pull in and face these cars instead. And the reason for that is because we wanted it to maintain a straight walk through here. So the flow when customers are at market would be, and if cars were gonna park over here, we had to shift it all over a little bit, so I think we changed it, so.
So are you
didn't have to
imagining
shift
that
it.
vendors will be set up in there with cars
No.
parked in
No,
there?
no,
No,
as
no,
well?
no, no, no.
Oh, okay.
No,
No.
I'm just, the parking meters and the parking is just for days we're not using it.
Oh, so
Yeah.
when you're saying flow, you're just like, you're not, okay.
So when
thought
I
you were
say
imagining-
flow, because I
Just
was
people
worried they were
walking
gonna
through.
put like meters here in the middle, like you come out of the walkway and there would be like meters right there.
Right.
And plus our vendors park right here.
Uh-huh.
So I was just saying, like, we made sure that customers, it's gonna change a little bit, like, how these, where these are placed. But the main thing is that customers will still be able to walk straight through with, with vendors on the side.
I think if they do switch the side that people park on, so that they come together on that south side,
Right.
that would be a lot better. Because for one thing, then when you've got the big trucks coming in to the long aisle, and there are several who have permanent stalls there with big trucks, it'll be a lot easier, and you might have a wider driveway there where maybe even people can almost pass each other coming in and out to load and unload, depending where people are set up. But then the people along the long aisle don't need to think they can go out further into the driveway. And I don't know if there's a way to put a line there. It's like, you need to be behind that line,
Yeah,
Mm.
right.
if you know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about. 'Cause
yeah, right.
sometimes it makes it really hard for other people who have
It's
to come
really
in.
narrow, yeah.
They can barely make it through.
Because this is so narrow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then the way they put their stuff in their vehicles, and then they bring another little car in, and that sticks out a little more.
Yeah, okay. So we'll make, yeah, so just making sure that is clear and there's lots of space to get in. Okay. Cool.
The loading and unloading area for customers,
Yeah.
is that gonna be the regular loading, unloading area in front of Carytown? Or is that gonna be like at the end of the Long Aisle, or by the Sandlot? Where's that gonna be exactly?
Okay, so this goes back to, we were already thinking of implementing a loading and unloading area for, restaurant and wholesale pickup orders, and having designated hours when we could kind of monitor it. And so we were thinking, 7 to 9 mornings of Wednesdays and Saturdays. On Wednesdays, they could pull in here, loop around, and pick up from here at the end of this aisle.
Well, usually all those stalls are empty on Wednesday.
Right,
So
that
they
was the
could,
thought.
you'd have a lot of space in there.
That was the
Okay.
thought. And on Saturday, could be over here on 4th
Okay,
in that loading zone.
in that loading zone.
Yeah.
And that's where we're gonna ask customers to pick up things too.
Yeah, I thought since we're already doing it, we could also do it for customers and just advertise at those times
And
are
that shouldn't interfere with anybody's set.
open. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. All right. Good job. Okay, now the next item is regular business, number G-1, the 2018 PMAT meeting calendar.
Yeah, if you flip in your packets to the meeting notice, these are all of the third
Thursdays of each month, and we have to vote if we like this schedule. Basically, we have to vote on our schedule for the next year.
So I move to accept it.
I'll second.
We have a motion and second to accept the schedule as printed. Any discussion?
Wait, so Alex seconded?
Uh-huh. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. The schedule is adopted. All right, the next one is to elect officers, chairman and a vice chairman for 2018.
Thanks. Okay, a little bit about this. Both Joel and Carleen are not going to be here for the entire year. It was going to be Joel's last month today, so I guess.
Last month was Joel's last day.
Yeah, yeah. So we will be getting a new representative. He's a buyer representative. And then Carleen's last month is May, and we will need a new annual vendor representative to replace Carleen. So as far as office,
Don't vote for us.
so as far as officers go, they were our chair and our vice chair. So voting is anonymous. It's basically I have, ballots. Pass this out, you check who your vote is for. You can vote for yourself, it's anonymous. And then you hand them back to me, and I tally it up, and I see, who is who. So we'll start with the chair, and then we will do the vice chair. So I'll just read over the chair and vice chair duties really quickly. Will help. So each year, we're supposed to elect by secret ballot from among the members of the commission. The officer shall be elected for a one-year term by a majority of the members present, basically. And the chair presides at all meetings and decides points of order and procedure subject to the provisions of the bylaws. The chair shall have the privilege of discussing and voting on all matters before the commission. The vice chair assumes the duties of the chair in the chair's absence. What that basically means is, the chair guides us through the agenda. That's the main thing. And then it's kind of up to, between the chair and the market manager, how involved you want to be in determining the agenda for the meeting. And I think it also can depend on if we are discussing anything that's complicated or controversial versus if it's kind of just a standard meeting, if you really need to help with the agenda or not. This past year, there hasn't been much news, so Joel has just kind of we've not had to work together to put together the agendas as much, or really at all. So, so it's pretty easy, and there's not a lot of time commitment unless you kind of choose to participate more. So I guess, is anybody feel strongly either way about not wanting to be in a vice chair or a chair?
So it's basically the three of us.
Yeah.
Right? So 2 out of 3.
Yeah.
So, I would ask who's interested, or if anyone is.
Yeah, is anyone interested?
I'm perfectly willing to serve, but I'm not, don't have to be the one.
No, it feels very similar. And I'm happy to, but also, if not, that's fine too.
Okay.
And I'm happy to support their serving as chair and vice chair.
Also,
So I feel very comfortable with either of them as chair or vice chair. So yeah,
Okay.
we can proceed. That's great.
All right, great, good. Thank you.
Well
So
done.
pass these down, take one, pass them down, and then pass them back to me when you have made your selection.
All right.
we can't elect our unknown future members.
Right.
Who knows when they're gonna be back?
So, we're doing chair now.
Yeah, this is for chair. And then we'll do vice chair. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
See, as we have 4 people though. No, we
Yeah, we'll have two and two.
You and you.
We'll draw it out of it.
Okay, so our chair is Alex.
Okay. Well, guess who our vice
There we
chair
go.
is.
Guess who the vice, we still have to vote, guys.
We have
Do we need to move to approve or anything? I mean, I guess
We
just
should.
voted, so-
We just voted, but I suppose to make it official, we should move to.
Okay. Well, let's do this.
So let's do vice chair first, and then we will
Somebody can
do
make
the
a
motion.
motion.
Yes. Okay, surprise, surprise. Peter is our vice chair.
Hotly
So
contested.
Okay, so do we have a motion to that effect then?
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion?
Thank you.
Then we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say yes.
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 And those opposed, no. Motion carried.
great, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Really appreciate. Thank you.
Okay, then the next item is the current marketing, and I think Stephanie will report that.
Sure. Okay, so, now we're getting into spring, and I kind of just wanted to cover what we do for marketing and see if you had any ideas for other things we could be doing. Right now, we currently publish in the Ann Arbor Parks and Recs guide. We use Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram once a week. We post on market, or twice a week, on market days. Mostly what's fresh, like what they can find at market. We have ads in Edible Wow, Taste Local Difference, and Crazy Wisdom that we purchase each year. Then, of course, we use the website, and we have that separate vendor app, or you can also access it from the website, but it's the vendor profiles. And we do, if we have events, we can send articles through the city, and the city will distribute it to like MLive, some of the larger newspapers, and then some of the online newspapers that we work with, like A4, which is all about Ann Arbor, and We Love Ann Arbor. And we usually just use those for big events. And then we have the Gov Delivery newsletter, which is a subscription newsletter for all city events, basically. Kind of all we do. So, so yeah, I guess kind of open floor. I would love to hear other ideas.
And I guess one thing is that so the intent is trying to get more people to market, more people coming and buying stuff. And so that these all seem to work fairly well for people who are kind of, it's like preaching to the choir a little bit. And so there are people who are, those are people who might already come. It's like I get a lot of these things and I'm excited to get them, but I'm already going to come anyway. So one way that I've thought might be an interesting way is that, so you have these tokens, and that making it an opportunity to essentially figure out a program to let people purchase those tokens to gift to others in their community, because part of the reason is that, the best thing is referral by word of mouth. And that those people that, I know people that might want to go to the market, but they have a barrier to going just because they're like, when is it again? I used to go a few years ago, but I've stopped. But if they have $20 worth of tokens in their pocket, they'll come. And that it can only be spent there. And the nice thing about it is if they lose them, the market's still retaining some value. So it's kind of win-win. But right now, the mechanism of the tokens is exclusively, it seems, for just within market day-to-day transactions, but it's possible to expand that to a larger, almost like a currency. But it would provide a nice way to gift, a way to connect to something, and a way to either Christmas, Earth Day, spring, I don't know, and make up holidays. But it seems like if it were put together in that way, it would help the market. It would actually act as a word-of-mouth marketing system too. So.
Cool.
Along those same lines, I was thinking of, my friend Amanda Sweetman runs this farmer's market at St. Joe's, and a lot of the this is the hospital in Ypsi, a lot of the customers at this market are employees of the hospital who can use their employee ID badge and swipe it for their purchases at the market, and it just comes out of their paycheck, which is ingenious. I mean, I think people end up spending a lot more money that way because it doesn't feel real. So I don't know if there's some way we could partner with some of these like larger employers in the city to have some program where, you know, it's like elective, but the, you know, the employees say, you know, can choose a budget, you know, $25 a week, and that comes to them in this, you know, market gift card form. Maybe it's a gift card and then they bring it to the office and then they get the tokens, or I don't know how it would work, but
That's a great
something
idea.
like that.
I believe the city employs a fair number of people. That might be a place to pilot it.
Yeah.
City and U of M. I
Yeah,
mean,
right.
Right, those two.
Yeah.
Sure.
Cover
Most of the.
50% of the population.
Yeah.
Cool, yeah.
You know, with our programs, we're always trying to drive people to our participating sites like farmers markets and grocery stores. And we've had a lot of success with ambassadors. So like slightly paid, basically, you know, an hourly wage for folks who probably would be volunteers, but we want to really kind of invest a little bit more, and who, in our case, are current or former participants in the program, and so can speak about their experience. And so I wonder if there's some parallel that could be like, you know, market representatives, market ambassadors who go out to community events or, you know, school events or something like that, just to encourage more people to come to the market. And it's almost like the low-hanging fruit, you know, that are local and nearby, but maybe just aren't coming regularly, to your point. And so there might be some community event outreach that could be done.
Cool. Yeah, that would be great. Okay, thanks. Good, yeah, a couple good.
I also was wondering, Ashley Wild is going to be manning a table for different vendors or farms at the Food Summit next Monday. And maybe she could just have a flyer to advertise at Ann Arbor Farmers Market. I don't know if it would bring anybody to the market, but
Sure.
it wouldn't hurt.
Right. Yeah, and I think if we list some of the, you know, our hours and with some of the things we have and maybe some of the events we have coming up, it's a reason to come. Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be over at Washtenaw Community College, so there very likely could be some people there who don't come to the Ann Arbor Farmers Market. You wouldn't need to make a ton of them.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I could make something for that for sure. Cool. Awesome. Thank you. Okay, and then
Okay, any other new business? Other than that, we have reports. I think that's Stephanie again.
Man, quick market manager report. The parking meters, we're able to cover those on really cold days for a few of the vendors, not all of them, but some of them. And this is for along Detroit Street, because product freezes so quickly. And the thought is to be able to keep it close so they don't have to keep running to their trucks way across the parking lot and coming back. The food truck rally applications are out. We're gonna have an emphasis on zero waste. We emphasized it, we didn't require it, but we heavily emphasized, like, we're trying to make it zero waste. Are you using recycling products or compostable? The July 4th rally is rescheduled for the 11th because of 4th of July. And we will be going to the local food summit and MIFMA as well. Also, I forgot to add this, but vendor applications are due March 1st. Those are coming up. And those are for returning vendors. Yeah. And I already gave an update on our projects. We're gonna start charging for damage to the gutters. So those get hit a lot, and we have to fix them. We sent some personal letters to schools and senior centers regarding day trips. Just like, hey, think about this for a trip. Here's how you could do it, you know, not hard, it's easy and fun. And that's also on our website. And Edible Wow will be doing an article on us for spring, their spring issue. And that's all I have.
Well, thank you for all of your work.
Thank you.
Anything else? Then we could have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Meeting is adjourned at 6:21.
Woo-hoo.
This is a long meeting.